Hi, my name is Lorelei Lanz, and today I'm going to show you how to make two different styles of bannock. We're going to make a traditional baked bannock, and I'm also going to show you how to make fried bannock. So to start with, I'm going to make the mixture for the fried bannock first. So we start with 2.5 cups of flour, which I've pre-measured here. Then our next ingredients, I have 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to mix that in gently into the flour. So now, because this is going to be a fried bannock, we're not actually going to put any form of fat into the mixture itself. I'm simply going to add 1 cup of milk. So traditionally, of course, they would have most likely used water for this part of it, but milk will make a more tender bannock, so that's why we use milk now. So I'm going to add 1 cup of milk. And I'm going to mix it gently here. Sometimes when you're adding the liquid, if it seems a little bit dry, then you can add some extra liquid. And that's simply due to the moisture of the flour. Sometimes if there's a lot of humidity in the air, then your flour is moister than other times. So sometimes it's drier, so sometimes it will take more liquid. So now to shape the bannock, I'm going to put it out on the board, put some flour down so it doesn't stick. And I'm going to knead it gently just until it holds together. Like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it into pieces and shape it into the fried bannock. So I'm going to roll it out a bit so I don't have to handle it too much when I'm shaping it. Kind of like that. And then I'm just going to cut it into pieces. And then I'm going to take these and just kind of pat them out a bit thinner. You might need a little bit more flour, just because some of the edges are kind of sticky. So if it starts to stick too much, and then I'm going to put this on a plate so we can take it over and fry it. Oftentimes what people will do with the fried bannock is they'll poke a hole in the center of it, and so that helps to allow the bannock to cook through without the middle of it being doughy or raw. So I'll just get these all patted out and ready to go. So there we've got all of our fried bannocks ready to go. It's good to let them actually rest a bit before you fry them, and that will help tenderize them as well. Okay, so now we're gonna make our fried bannock. So what I have here is I have a pan of oil heating on the stove. I've just used a regular canola oil. You could use any neutral oil to do this. You could also use a deep fryer. If you have a deep fryer, it's probably the best method actually. And in a deep fryer, you would probably heat it up to about 375 degrees. With the pan on the stove, the way that you can tell it's ready is when you take your bannock and you go to put it in like this, you can see how it all bubbles up and starts to cook right away. So now that we know that that oil is hot enough to cook the bannock, so I'm going to go ahead and put in another piece. You want to be very careful putting the bannock in and out of the frying pan. You don't want the oil to splash. And that's also a fire risk. So yeah, I'm just going to cook 2 pieces at a time in this pan. I could probably squeeze another one in there, but it would lower the temperature of the oil. And so what I'll do is I'll just cook that. You can see that it's puffing up. So that baking powder is working, making it nice, rise up nicely. And you can see this piece here is starting to get golden around the edges. So it's almost time to turn that. I'll let it cook for a few more seconds. This one too, they are cooking quite quick. So yeah, you can see it's nice and golden brown on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and carefully flip it over and cook the other side. This one looks like it might be, that one's ready too. That one's nice and golden brown. Flip it over. And same thing, you're just going to cook it till it's nice and golden brown on the bottom side. It shouldn't take too long at all. You can see it's still too white. That's still not cooked properly, so we'll put it back and let it cook some more. See the oil bubbling up through the center where I put the holes, so that's helping to cook the center part of it as well, so we don't end up with doughy bannock. So yeah, that one looks like it's nicely cooked on both sides. So we'll just take that one out of the oven, or sorry, out of the oil, set it aside, and continue cooking the rest of them. Traditional baked bannock. This is what is most commonly made in my family, is the baked bannock. So it's actually almost the same recipe. 2.5 cups of flour. And then again, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of salt. And so you mix those together. And now, because this is a baked bannock, we're going to add the fat in here. So what I have is I have a 1/4 cup of lard that I've cubed into little squares. So we're just going to dump that in, and we're going to mix it around in the flour, get it all covered. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my fingers and I'm going to break it apart into smaller pieces, so it gets throughout all of the dough nicely. So you just keep mixing and breaking apart the lard, getting it coated in the flour until you feel like it's nicely throughout the entire mixture. Kind of little, I don't know, pea-sized little chunks if you can get them like that. But you can see how it's kind of flaky here and so that the lard is mixed in a nice way all throughout the flour mixture. And so now it's exactly the same as the fried bannock, where we add our liquid. So again, we're going to use milk, 1 cup of milk. And because of already mixing the fried bannock and knowing that it's going to absorb a little bit more moisture, I'm actually going to add more than a cup. So about 1 1/8 cups, 1 1/4 cups there. Again, that's totally situational based on the moisture content of the flour. So you just mix this gently until it's mostly comes together. The big thing with bannock is you don't want to overmix it, because once you overmix it, then it becomes tough. And so we're going to put it out onto our boards that's sprinkled with flour. Just like that. And again, we're going to, I think this needs a little bit of flour on top. We're going to knead it until it all comes together gently. You can see how I'm just folding it over itself. And this one's a little bit moist, so I'm going to add a little bit flour here. So probably about 8 folds is good, just when you can see it holding itself together. Then you know you can roll it out and it will hold itself. So this looks good. A little bit of flour so it doesn't stick to the board or the rolling pin. And so this one we're going to bake as a slab. So I'm just going to roll it out the same as I did before, but thinner, because we're not going to do anything else to it until it's, just roll it out so it'll fit in the pan. So I would say you roll it out to about 1/3 to 1/2 inch thickness. Just like that. And then you take a pan. I have lightly greased this pan, so I'm just going to put the grease all over the bottom of the pan. You could also use a spray just to prevent it from sticking. And then make sure it's not stuck anywhere. And I'm going to lift this into the pan. And again, shape it nicely. And there, and that's ready to go into the oven. Okay, so we're going to put our baked bannock in the oven. I've got it preheated to 400 degrees, so you want a nice hot oven. And you're going to try and put it on the center rack. I kind of have them lower, upper and lower, so I'll put it on the lower rack. In the center, this is going to take about 15 to 20 minutes to bake. Okay, so we're going to have a look at our baked bannock. I think it's done. And it is. You can see how it's nice and golden brown. So you know that'll be cooked all the way through. And what I usually do with the bannock, it helps enhance the appearance as well as the flavor. So once it comes out of the oven, what I usually do is I just rub the butter over it. Makes it a little bit glossy and shiny. Just like that. And there's your bannock. Now you just have to let it cool a little bit, and then you'll be able to slice it up and serve it with stew. You can make sandwiches with it. You can make bannock burgers with it. Okay, so we have both of our completed bannocks here. We have the baked bannock, which I've just cut up into squares for serving. And then we have our fried bannock. So the baked bannock is typically eaten with a meal, so like with a soup or a stew. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half. Just put a little bit of butter on it. You can see how nice and flaky it is by how it's coming apart there, that it's nice and light and flaky. And so that's ready to serve. And then our fried bannock could be a treat on its own. I'm just going to add a bit of Saskatoon jam to that one. And there you go. They're both ready to eat.